Hey, what's up everybody? It's Sabom here, and how you guys doing this afternoon? Alrighty then. Sorry about the late intro. Had to take care of something real quick. We are going to be doing the top 10 most wanted companions for after Dragon Age Veilguard. This is simply because, and I don't know too much about the Veilguard companions. There might be some that meet these requirements, but I could not tell by the pictures. I only got pictures and names to go on for the Veilguard companions, so as far as I can tell, they don't meet any of these requirements, and that's why I'm making this list. Hopefully we get to see some of these in a game after Veilguard, whether it take place before the events of Veilguard, or someplace in between, or maybe after, who knows. We're gonna jump right into it though. So with our number 10 spot is an Antivan female. Now none of these are really going to be actual specific characters, but rather like general overviews. Like, you know, we've had an Antivan male companion before with Zevran, and we've had an Antivan female advisor, but she's never been a companion, that being Josephine. I would like to see an Antivan female companion, simply because I feel like there's so much of Antiva that doesn't get explored upon, simply because, you know, you can learn a lot about Tevinter and Parvalan through banter between Iron Bull and Dorian, but with Josephine, you really only have your conversations and hearsay and all that. I just think it'd be cool to actually hear it from the mouth of like somebody who's not directly talking to you, just talking about their home. That being said, this isn't the strongest entry on the list, but I would still love to see it in the future. Let me know what you guys think. Our number 9 spot is another kind of like, we have a male but not a female for it, and that is somebody from Tevinter. Now we do have Dorian, and he does give us a pretty good insight on what goes on in Tevinter, and we also know a little bit about what happens to the elves thanks to Fenris. However, I think that, and maybe it doesn't matter much, maybe they don't treat them any differently, but it would still be nice to know like how Tevinter women are like as opposed to Tevinter men. And so it would be kind of cool to have a Tevinter female companion. I could see either one of these being somebody that's already like in Veilguard, and I just don't know about it. As I said, I don't know anything about their backgrounds or the actual characters themselves. All I've got to go on is pictures and names, so it's kind of hard to tell there. Anyway, we're gonna move on to number 8, and this one probably was hit in Veilguard. I just don't know for a fact it was, and if it wasn't, it definitely needs to be implemented in another game, and that is a trans character. Now, with Krim and Dragon Age Inquisition, even though he was not a companion, it was still kind of cool to have Krim around, and I feel like that was BioWare's way of testing the waters a bit to see like how people would take to the representation, I suppose. You know, if they didn't really like it, then Krim wasn't a big part of the story, didn't really have to be interacted with, and if you know, you did like Krim, then there was enough of Krim to actually be able to like, yeah, you know, they actually had a pretty prominent role in this game, and I would love to see more of them. That being said, I think it would be good for BioWare and the community to have a character like that appear as a companion, and maybe they do. These bottom 3 were kind of like, they might be in there, they might not. Going above it gets a lot harder. Like, I doubt that any of these are in Veilguard, from what I can tell by the pictures. That being said, we're going to move on to, I guess you could say, the quote-unquote real list. We're going to go into our number 7 spot, which is the Kunari Rogue. Now, we have had Kunari in 2 games so far. And with Veilguard being released, that will make 3. There was Sten in Dragon Age Origins. There was Iron Bull in Dragon Age Inquisition. And then there is going to be this new character, which this list would have had a Kunari female on it. But I do believe, and I could be mistaken, but I do believe that the character is a female. I'm trying to pull it up right now. Tash. It might not be. It might be a male, but it to me it kind of looks like a female. And if it isn't a female, then that is a darn shame, because, well, it is about time that we got a female Kunari companion. But more so, it would be awesome to see someone do a rogue, because whether or not this Kunari Tash happens to be a male or female, the fact of the matter is they are dragon hunter, which very much leads me to believe that they are in fact a warrior. And I don't know. It is kind of hard to picture a Kunari rogue, it really is, but Dragon Age 2 did it threw out an interesting idea. That was when horned Kunari were first introduced, and for the rogues, which would be kind of like your archers or whatever, rather than using a bow and arrow, these guys would throw spears. Now, obviously it was a little bit strange, you don't know where they kept getting the spears from, but having something like that, you know, kind of like Varric's Bianca as a unique weapon for like a rogue character would be interesting and very cool. And also a rogue character would be very unique. You would actually have to put some genuine thought onto how you was going to pull off a rogue Kunari. That being said, we are going to move into the number 6 spot, which is a female dwarf warrior. Now, throughout Dragon Age, there have been a total of, if I'm not mistaken, 3 dwarven companions in total. There was Oghren from Dragon Age Origins, Sigrun from Dragon Age Awakening, and then Varric from Dragon Age 2, and then again in Dragon Age Inquisition. However, one common theme amongst these is that there is no female dwarf warrior, which I don't know if that's part of their culture. Maybe females just aren't allowed to be warriors. I've seen like in the provings or whatever, you know, females fight, but I can't really picture any like warrior females. They're mostly rogues. But that being said, I do believe that female warriors do exist. Actually, Volta, Dragon Age Inquisition, if you actually look up her page, it does actually classify her as a warrior. So she's not a companion, kind of, because you don't actually get to select her or whatever, but something like that. It would be amazing to have, and maybe it would be kind of cool, since you don't see a whole lot of like female dwarven warriors, her exploring about how, you know, it's kind of hard for her to make it in the warrior caste given her gender and stuff like that. Overall, I think it'd be a cool idea. Maybe you think not. Let me know in the comments below. We're gonna move into the number 5 spot, which is the Elf Circle Mage. Now, the reason that the elf circle mage is on here is we've had elven mages and circle mages, however, we have never had an elven circle mage. And I think that this is mostly due to the fact that, like, people just don't think about, you know, you think elf, you think, alright, they're either Dalish or they're some, like, beggars in the street. Where my mind goes with this is, what if a Dalish clan was annihilated, they was forced to retreat, possibly even taken in by, like, slavers, moved around, whatever the story is, like, they end up in the city, and a descendant of one of the keepers actually has a potential of magic, and it's found out, they're taken into the circle, where you can kind of have like a, I don't know, a kind of complex character in the fact where they probably feel safer in the circle than they did the alienage, but now that they know about their Dalish roots, they could want to return to the Dalish. I think that that would be a really cool angle to work with, and also it would give you kind of like one of those, you can influence your character, your companions heavily. Like, will they remain as a circle mage, a devoted circle mage, or will they go to the Dalish and, you know, try to learn magic there? Yeah, I think it's a cool idea, but again, with most of these, let me know what you think in the comments below. Speaking of mages, another mage that we have not seen as a companion throughout the series, and one that I think would be really cool, is a Grey Warden mage. Now, you could technically say that this is false due to the fact that Anders is in fact a Grey Warden, as is Valana. However, I would also like counter this in saying that, like, Anders doesn't really act much like a Grey Warden, and I suppose that that's kind of like subject to, well, he's not a stereotype. Anders always acted more like a circle mage, even after getting recruited to the Wardens. In fact, possibly even more so once he got bounded with justice. I think that's why they pretty much just kind of wrote out the Warden part of it. And as for Valana, yeah, I mean, she's technically a Grey Warden, but I felt like a lot of the Grey Wardens from Awakening were Grey Wardens in name only. Like, Sigrun kind of just joined to get the extra title, and Oghren kind of just joined because drinking blood, why not? Valana basically admitted she had no loyalty to the Wardens, just herself. Like, I felt like the only legitimate Warden companion that you had in Awakening was Nathaniel. That being said, I think it would be cool to see a Warden kind of like Clarel, but maybe not as much of a zealot of a Warden, but maybe combine some of these ideas, like a Tevinter Grey Warden mage. That would be epic, especially like a, you know, female Tevinter Grey Warden mage, or combine even more ideas, a Tevinter trans Grey Warden mage who also is part Kunari. I don't know, throw it all in there. It's 10:10. Moving on to the next, sorry, there's a bit of an interruption. Moving into the next, we have a female elf warrior, which elven warriors are kind of rare in the series to begin with. You've got basically Fenris, that comes to mind right offhand. I don't really think there are really any more elven warriors that you have as companions throughout the series. I could be blanking, I really could be, but I don't think so. That being said, another, like, you know, elven warrior would be cool, but it would also be cool to see, like, a woman in a seat of power. Or not a seat of power, I guess, but, like, as a powerhouse, for once. Kind of like going with the dwarven thing. I won't get too much more into it because I am running a bit low on time, but yeah, the representation of, like, maybe a Dalish warrior instead of the traditional mage, because, like, I feel like every time they bring in a Dalish companion, it has to be a mage, and, like, no, not every Dalish is a mage. A great deal of them are warriors. So yeah, I think that's an angle that should be explored. Moving into my number 2 spot, and this debatably would have been number 1, but the number 1 is a spot that I've wanted to see personally for a while, and I was very disappointed to see that it did not happen in Veilguard. But the number 2 spot is a Cerebos, which, for those of you who aren't, like, too keen on the lore of Dragon Age, a Cerebos is a Kunari mage. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a Cerebos, because they traditionally have their mouths sewn shut, but I mean, something like a Cerebos, like maybe a Talvashoth who used to be Cerebos. It just, again, kind of like with you know, with the Dalish, I feel like they always do like a stereotype with the Kunari. It's always got to be some big buff person. Before it was just a big buff male. It looks like with Veilguard we might get a big buff female, but, like, still, it would be kind of cool to see, like, the other aspects of the Kunari culture, like delving more into what a Cerebos actually feels about the situation. You do get to learn a little bit about how a Cerebos feels about it in Dragon Age 2, but that could be, like, is it just that Cerebos, or do all Cerebos feel like that? Yeah, the Cerebos is actually one of the more, like, I desperately need something like this to happen, just to show that they can keep things interesting. But we are going to move into our final spot right after this quick honorable mention. A hornless Kunari female would actually be pretty cool. We've seen Sten, but we've never seen, like, a hornless Kunari since, so at least a cameo from a hornless Kunari female, that would be sweet, sick, all of that. Flip-flopping right back into the number 1 spot, we have a female Grey Warden. Now, again, I already touched up on this slightly with the mage thing. You could technically say we have had female Grey Warden companions in Sigrun and Vallana. I would counter this as, like, I would like to see it in a main game first and foremost, and secondly, like, an actual, like, true Grey Warden, someone who's about the cause and, like, all that. even if it's just another stereotypical human, bland, like, I did it for the betterment of whatever, like, as long as there's a female instead of another bland male. Come on now. Like, we done had Alistair, Nathaniel, then technically Anders, and then Blackwall. Like, for the love of God, people, give us a female Grey Warden that's like actually deep-seated in Grey Warden lore. It would also kind of be cool for them to use like another race instead of human, but I get it, it's a little hard to do something like that when there's not a blight going on, because not as many people are like that amped to join. And so like then you kind of like gotta explain why they would join the Grey Wardens, and if it's, you know, a dwarf, you gotta explain why they're outside of Orzammar and all that. If it's an elf, you gotta explain whether they're from the city and why they got brought out from the city. Or if they're Dalish, you gotta explain all that. I get the complications in using another race, but effective writing is key in situations like that. That aside, I am going to end the video here. I hope you liked it. I hope that you guys got something from it. I hope it gave you some ideas. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if you agree with these, and also let me know if any of the Veilguard companions actually do meet these requirements and I just didn't know. That being said, hasta la pasta, see you later. I hope you have a fantastic day. Avon Clark is going to sign off.